because like you, my children are so close in age. They would tag team me, and
Currently.
and I had to bake in just some space for me, because otherwise I couldn't be a good parent for them. I was I was crying. I mean, it just wasn't a good look. And so I needed some moments of where if mommy's in the shower, if mommy's in the bathroom, you either need to knock, you can't just bust in or anything like that. And it has to be an emergency. You can wait 15 minutes.
Hey, 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 I am Brianna Harmon, and this is the Millennial Mommies Club, an original podcast dedicated to all of the millennial mommies out there killing the game. Whether you are single, married, or expecting, this is the place to be during your 15 minutes of downtime. Welcome to the Millennial Mommies Club.
I'm a fun mom.
I am a patient mom.
I am a conscious mom.
I'm a creative mom.
I'm a millennial mom.
Hey mamas, and welcome back to the Millennial Mommies Club. Have you ever felt uneasy about the water or thought, were you like me who was thrown in the pool and was told fix it and save your life? Trish Miller here, 20 years experience of public health, but also now swim school, Swem Kids, and so many important facts about swim safety. I'm so excited to welcome you to the Millennial Mommies Club. How are you, beautiful?
I'm great. Thanks, Bree. It's great to be here. Thank you for
Yes, it's amazing because we talked about this earlier when we discussed just swim safety and having to kind of have the old school way of being thrown in the water. Tell me your near-death experience to why we even came into the idea of a swim school.
Bree, it still gives me chills when I talk about it. And actually, I'm from Virginia.
Okay.
Live here in Atlanta. However, from Virginia, grew up near the ocean front, and I have two older brothers. My father did the same thing with my older brothers. He threw them in the lake, and they had to figure out how to get to the boat. Baby girl, only girl, you don't do that. So you protect her from the water. And when I went on holiday with some girlfriends, they taught me how to swim. So when you don't know how to swim and you grow up not knowing how to swim, everybody's going to teach you. And so they taught me how to swim, and I thought I knew how to swim because I could do the underwater thing from one end to the other. And so I jumped into 12 feet of water.
What were you thinking?
I was 19 and I was not thinking. And I jumped into 12 feet of water, didn't know how to tread, didn't know how to float. And it was probably literally the most scariest experience I've ever had in my life. Thankfully, my friends were on the platform and they were able to jump in and get me. But that experience stayed with me, and it took me decades to learn how to swim.
Wow.
I actually had my own children by that point. I had moved into public health by that point, and I was still battling that trauma and that fear of not knowing how to swim. And my children, I put them in lessons as soon as they were 2 and 3. They were in lessons. But I did not celebrate my own first lap until 2019.
Wow.
That's how long it took for me to overcome that fear. And that happened in the 90s. That's how long it took me to overcome that fear.
Wow.
So that made me in public health want to do something that mattered, something that mattered to me, to my community, and really started to then study the statistics around that experience. It's not a unique experience, unfortunately, and many people either have that experience of being thrown in the water or a near drowning experience. And the statistics show that Black children in middle school actually drown 10 times more than white children.
Wow.
So that's a public health crisis level. And so I wanted to do something about it. And I started Swem Kids in 2017, which again was before I had celebrated my own first lap. But I was determined to take that journey with others, and I did.
Wow. So you said a little bit about your own babies. Now, we
did.
are on the Millennial Mommies Club, which is everything motherhood, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All of that.
So what has been your motherhood journey when you decided to have your babies? And they're how far apart?
15 months.
15 months. Mine are 13
Ooh,
months apart.
So you know.
Yes. I can tap in very well with you on those emotions. What has that journey been like when you had your babies?
So I actually was married when I had both children, divorced not long after. So I did raise them solo from that age of 2 and 3. So they were very young when I split. But I will say, when my daughter came home, and my family was all in a different part of Virginia, so I was solo with her. My husband at the time was at work, and she would not stop crying. And nothing I did would make this child stop crying. And I broke all the way down, like all the way down. And so I remember that journey of then, trying to console her, trying to ask my mom for help. And my mom is super old school, and she's very much like, okay, this is your child, figure it out. Feeling so alone. And then not long after finding out I was pregnant with,
That's
with
how
the
I
other
found
one.
out. I'm telling you, I was going in for my 6-month checkup, and they said, baby, you're pregnant again.
Yes.
I said, girl, what? You're lying.
Very similar. I had just gotten my body
Snap
back
right. And you feeling good, and it's over.
And then here comes the other one. But that journey as a solo parent, I want to just give big ups and respect to people that do this alone. And it is not easy, but it is very rewarding.
Yeah.
And so we're on the other end of our teenagers now. But I wouldn't change anything about that experience.
I am there currently in that single parent separation. That's a whole nother level of you're trying to raise these babies and emotionally be there for them. But you're mentally not there because you're dealing with that loss.
Situation.
How do you get over that hump? And you were married. I can only imagine. We were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Got it.
And that felt like in a typical relationship, you're like, when we break up, all right, deuces. See you later. But no, we got kids. So I got to deal with you for the rest of my life. You were married. Talk about that.
Yeah. We probably should not have been married. So we met quickly, married quickly, and found that we did not know each other very well. But that also has been a journey for him, in that he has had to come into himself as how to be a father and how to parent. The other part of that I want to share, though, that people don't really understand and respect is when you have to feel like you have to schlep your children from house to house, and they don't get this kind of consistent the way you want to raise them, maybe, or what you want them exposed to, or maybe even how you want them to eat. All of those kinds of things, people just take for granted. Just that emotional toil that it takes on you as a parent. That is not easy. I can't even give you a rule book. I can't give you. We had many battles, many fights, fusses, and all that stuff. But we fumbled through it the best way we could, and what I do know is how resilient children are. So where you might be breaking down or like the duck on top of the water with your feet struggling there, they are so resilient. And then as they get older and can communicate better with you, it starts to just release a little bit of the anxiety that you might have when you have to send your child away. And but this is a whole nother segment on just parents need to stay together. Like that's not designed for us to do this thing alone.
It's not. But it's hard when I got together quickly with my child's father, had a baby. We honestly were together for maybe 8 months and had a baby. So it was like, I didn't know you yet. And that's where I think parenting and millennials and this whole journey is like, it doesn't happen traditionally anymore. So you may not know the person. But trying to navigate that is a hard ball game, especially when you're trying to say, I want my child to go act this way and be this way. Now, I know I have a fear currently of what's going to happen when my daughters may say, I want to live with daddy. Or it's better over there at that house. How do you combat that feeling? To give moms advice on how do we get emotionally okay with that?
You don't. You don't. And that's always a fear. And I remember I had a lot of resentment because my ex-husband, it felt like he got to be the Santa Claus and Easter Bunny parent, right? So I had to do the grind. I had to be the disciplinary. I had to make sure people were doing what they need to do in school. And then on weekends, they get to go do fun things. And we go here and yay, we love this. And meanwhile, I'm like, oh my gosh, can you send a check? You know, like those kinds of things. I don't have advice for that because it's those situations are so individualized. But I just I pray before people have children that you do take a minute and understand where this person comes from, the trauma they may have experienced in their life, and how they then will pass that on to how you raise your child.
Yeah.
It's a big freaking decision. But people, I don't think we always think about, we're in the moment and we think about the pleasure piece of that.
Yeah.
But these people are with us for the rest of their lives, these little ones that we got to raise into human beings.
Show them the positive side.
Yes.
And the scary part that I've always feared about too is, how do I explain this to you when you're older? Because right now you're 2 and 3.
Yes.
Why didn't mommy and daddy work out? Why couldn't you guys fix it?
Right.
Was I the problem? Was daddy the problem?
Right.
And those conversations, I don't know if I'm ready for.
Right. The fun part is when either the ex-husband or whoever with a new person
That's
comes.
the scary part. You think that's the fun part? Girl, dating out here and trying to come back after having 2 kids and being like, I'm still out here. Can you accept me and my kids? That's hard.
Sarcastic in every bit of the way. When your ex brings somebody around your children, or when you have to introduce somebody around your children, all of that is that's another level of complex stuff.
And I know we can go deeper into it, but I want to take a small break. And you guys, listen, you know what's coming up next, the cookie jar. So we're going to tap into this in just a minute. You guys are listening to the Millennial Mommies Club on Ebony, covering Black America Podcast Network.
You are listening to the Ebony, covering Black America Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Millennial Mommies Club. So, it's time for the cookie jar. This is you all's moment where you've submitted your questions. You've asked us and want us to talk about it. So let's see what we pull today.
Oh, I get to do it?
Yes, ma'am. You will read and we will talk that through.
All right. How do you keep your identity as a mom? That's a great one. Ooh. Should we jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, I've been very intentional on that. So while being a single parent, I have managed to get another master's degree. I have opened a business. And what I've done is my children have been in tow on every step of that. In fact, my son and daughter sat in on my thesis dissertation and actually participated during my dissertation. So it was very important to me to show them that mommy is a person. I'm here for you, and I will be at your activities and cheer for you, but you have to do the same for mommy. Wow. And they've been amazing in that. Also, just with even going to the gym, even I'm very in setting boundaries. I think as a parent is very important. This may not be PC. My children do not have 24/7 access to me wherever I am. They just don't. They don't.
Teach me.
So, for example, what I mean is, if something's going on with my children, of course, they can get in touch with me. But there are some off-limit areas. For example, I do not play sleeping in the bed together. I know a lot of mommies like that. We don't play that game. I don't like elbows and knees in my back. Bathrooms are off-limits unless somebody's bleeding, dying, those kinds of things. But I want to teach them boundaries. I want to teach them self-sufficient. I want them to be self-sufficient so that they can problem solve and figure out the thing, and they're not clinging to me for every single thing that they need. That's how I can keep my identity as Trish and also be their mom and their parent.
Did you start that early on?
I started that very early on.
Because I'm in the bathroom and I got fingers under the door, or I got barging in, and it's like, mommy just needs a second to breathe.
And that is why I started that early on, because like you, my children are so close in age. They would tag team me, and
Currently.
and I had to bake in just some space for me because otherwise I couldn't be a good parent for them. I was crying. I mean, it just wasn't a good look, and so I needed some moments of where if mommy's in the shower, or if mommy's in the bathroom, you either need to knock, you can't just bust in or anything like that, and it has to be an emergency. You can wait 15 minutes. And so we definitely started that early on, and that's been something where I even offer them that respect. If they're in the restroom or if they're doing something, it will have to wait until they now have that until that availability is there.
So now I question, did you have mom guilt with that? Because I feel guilty sometimes if I'm not 100% there when they need me.
I have tons of mom guilt. I have tons of mom guilt around, especially my business, because that is my third child.
Yeah.
Tons of mom guilt around that. But what I teach them is it's necessary. So mommy cannot be fully present for you as a person if I don't follow my own dreams and goals as well.
Yeah.
Now, I'll talk back to kind of my old school upbringing where my mother is still alive and was a housewife. So I never even knew, I can probably count on one hand how many times I've spent times at someone else's house. Like she was there when I got from school, cooked every night, housewife. And so for her, she would tell me, you don't need to date until your children are grown. You don't need to, you need to get a good, stable government job while your children are young. So she definitely has a different perspective, and clearly I am not that way.
But the times have changed so much with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we definitely do something different. And that's why I feel my children have that level of independency that I had as a young kid too, but it's just different.
But it's crazy how times have changed.
Yeah.
You were in this old school upbringing where we had those stay-at-home moms who did everything. Now we are bosses.
Yes.
We're independent.
Yes.
We are making it work.
Yes.
How has that shift been balancing the business and your kids while also Trish?
Yeah. It's definitely been challenging. And with my mom being a stay-at-home, my father was the provider. So he worked and provided for us. And when you have to do all of those things yourself as one person, so you're the provider, you're the nurturer, you have your own goals, you have your own dreams, you got to stay sexy, you want to date, you want to get a break for yourself, you want to go on vacations, all of these things, you want to make sure you don't have dumb kids, right?
Yeah.
You want to read to them, you want to spend time with them. The pressures are immense, and I just really don't think people understand the pressures of parenting. I don't know from a father's standpoint, but I do know from a mother's standpoint, the pressures of parenting are immense. Yeah. And my really advice around that is literally do the best you can. There is no rule book.
I've said this several times on this podcast.
Yes.
We do not get a manual.
No.
And every time you think it may be going correctly, there's a freaking bomb that explodes, and it's like, nope, it's a new thing to learn. It's a new step.
Yes.
And that identity piece is huge because I lost my identity.
Yeah.
I lost it so quickly.
Yeah.
And
easy.
I was on a high of who I was.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, it's like, you're only a mom, so get it right. And you're a girlfriend, praying to be a wife.
Yes.
So you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're trying to make sure sex is constant. You're trying to be everything that you have to be, but also two girls are looking at you like, I need your boobs, I need you, I need everything.
Yeah.
Where do I get time for myself?
You have to make it. Again, those boundaries are incredibly important. And then the guilt that comes from setting those boundaries are just things that you have to work through yourself. Therapy always is a great work too. Yeah. So I know people don't like to admit that, but I think therapy, especially when I was going through a divorce, when I was trying to figure out how, and my children and I moved to Atlanta, we knew no one here.
Us too.
So I brought a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old in my car, packed them up, and we moved here. Wow. And we started everything fresh, new. We created family here as we went. We still don't have family here, but we've been here for 11 years, and we've made a beautiful life for ourselves here. But I just want to go back to that identity piece is you have to carve it out for yourself. There's no one that's going to give you permission to do that. And your children are going to, my children, even at the age they are, still are like, hey, can you watch this? Can you do this? Can you sign this? And it's about me pushing back sometimes, but also letting them know that mommy is here for you and I will do these things for you. But mommy needs those things too. And we sometimes just try to act like a magician and just pretend like, oh, I can do it all. I don't need it. No, that's not the case. Ask for help.
That is the key. We never want to ask for help because we feel like we're a burden for somebody else.
Ask for help. I was talking to
Ooh.
my best friend just over the weekend, and we were going back to some of the things that I had to do just to live. And when I first moved to Atlanta, there was this 24-hour daycare. And I wanted to go out so bad. I just wanted to go out. And I didn't like leaving my children with anything. Girl, I took their little behinds to this 24-hour daycare. And I went out and got my little party on, picked them up about 2, 3 in the morning. And it was just, but it was something I needed. I just needed a minute.
But it's crazy because we feel bad for that minute. I feel terrible. And I'm not going to lie. Sometimes you're told you can't go out. Right. You can't have fun. Absolutely. And it's like, why not?
Why not?
I need a drink sometimes. Or I need a break. And that word break is you're a mom. You don't get a break. Right. Especially the old generation.
Yes.
You don't get a break.
You don't get a break.
Why can't I get a break? And I've talked to older women and moms, and they're just like, I had my baby 24/7, worked 3 jobs, and I had to do it. And it's like, why do I have to be that way?
You do not.
I'm 26 years old.
And
like
that's why they're grumpy, and that's
why you're going crazy.
That's why they're grumpy now.
I want that 24-hour daycare though. Like
it was a godsend. Yeah. It was a godsend. But it's those kind of things that we have to. If I don't have family here, and I don't have an auntie here, or someone that I trust to leave my children with, that was the way I had to do it. Yeah. And they went to sleep. They had a snack. I picked them up. They got back in their bed. Wow. I didn't do this every weekend, but
every now and then.
But I did do it when I needed to. Yeah. And it was those kinds of things that I had to make space for me. There were many overnights that I did in working on, either my business or my thesis and things like that. My children went to bed seeing me working. They woke up seeing me working. But again, it was those seeds that I was planting in them that you absolutely have zero excuse. Yeah. If you want something, you better go and get it. And I wanted them to see it demonstrated, but I needed them to also give me space to demonstrate that. And so I had to make that space with my children. Now, I cook maybe 4 times a week. Me too. But there were some of those nights that I didn't cook. You know what I mean? Yeah, they had to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And there's something in there. I remember my children were like 4 and 5. And my daughter especially started being able to reach like cereal and stuff like that. And so she would make breakfast for her and her brother. Have at it. Do not wake me up.
Yeah. And it's funny because my daughter right now, at 2 and 3, my 3-year-old would go in the refrigerator and grab out their little yogurt pouches and bring it to me. And they'll be like, open. Yes. Okay, y'all go back in the room. I'm still in the bed for a little bit. Yes. But I used to feel bad about that. But now I'm starting to feel like you're understanding that sometimes I have to fend for myself. And you can do it.
You can do it.
It's okay. Now I'm teaching them how to open it. So you don't even got to come tell mommy. Go drink it. Go. I'll be back and make pancakes in a minute. Have fun. That is amazing. But now let's kind of round and close out with your business.
Yes.
Swem Kids.
Yes.
You put in the work. You planted the seeds. Yes. Now it's here. It's huge. Yes. And you're at a place for our minorities to be able to learn how to swim. Yes. Tell me about Swem Kids and just where it is now.
Absolutely. We are 5 years old. We celebrated 5 years today. This year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It is the most rewarding work I have ever done in my entire life. So I worked for CDC. I left the CDC in 2019 to do Swem Kids full time. I've not looked back once. This has been a beautiful journey that I still tear up about. Though I am not, we actually have nearly 600 people in the water every week. Wow. Every week. We are year-round swim because, I'll put a plug in, year-round swimming reduces drowning rates by 90%. Wow. So if you can keep your children in the water until proficiency year-round, then that definitely is the best way for them to go. But even in celebrating my own first lap, I have held hands with people doing their big jumps. I am there to celebrate every first splash. The work, though, that we do that's most rewarding is around our scholarship work. Because we exist to make sure that everyone has the access to water. And so we scholarship hundreds of people each year. They get 4 hours of free lessons. They get a free swimsuit, swim bag, swimming goggles, swimming cap. And we are only able to do that work by donors. We have relationships with grants and things like that. But at the end of the day, our goal is to make sure these drowning rates decrease. Yeah. And if paying for lessons is the barrier, then we reduce that barrier by providing it without cost. And so it is definitely the most, I can't even express without starting some tears right now. I'm trying to avoid that.
That's your
but
baby.
It is definitely my third.
That's
my
huge
third
though,
child.
because like you said, I was taught, I guess, the wrong way.
Yeah.
So to be able to have children taught the right way, the safe way, and it could be rewarding. Like it's huge. And now you have scholarships, because that is an issue for our community sometimes, that cost.
It is.
How can I afford these swim lessons?
Right.
I want my baby to learn how to swim, but
Absolutely.
I can't afford it. So to be able to do that and sponsor kids,
Yeah.
that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to put my kids in, so we'll
Please
talk
do.
after.
Yes.
And mommies out there, you
please do
figure out how we can connect with you to
Absolutely.
get those babies swimming. And if you want to just let them know where they can follow you, where they can find you and get more information.
Yes. So Swem Kids is the largest Black-owned swim school in Atlanta. We have 35 of the best staff. We make sure our employees look like the communities that we serve. And so if you want to support us, find out more information, or even register, go to swemschool.com. That's actually spelled SWEM. Swemschool.com. Quick story on why.
I was just about to ask. Tell me, we can't just say it without saying why it's called SWEM.
YE. Again, we focus in on Black people. I say it very beautifully with the highest rates of drownings, but Black people drown faster more than any other race. Swim is Afrikaans, and that is our stealth way of taking back this space of water that we were birthed from. That's very spiritual for us. And taking actually back that dialect of Afrikaans as well. And that was why I was very intentional on how I named my business too.
I love that. Trish, thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Mamas, listen, you know where you can go in and meet Trish now. So please go follow her. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you would like to be a part of the cookie jar submitting those questions, please email us, at info.themmc@gmail.com. So we'll see you all next week on another episode of the Millennial Mommies Club.
Thank you.